I think the most precious asset we have is it's really time. It was probably harder for me because I had to give up all this to start my journey, you know.
Hello and welcome back to the Ben Motorcycle Adventures Podcast, your hub for everything off-road, dual sport, and adventure motorcycle. My name is John. I will be your host. This is episode 30, Ben Motorcycle Adventures Podcast. Thank you for joining, and as always, thank you for listening. Nothing short of a great show and a great guest today. We have Paolo Cattaneo, who's been traveling around the world on his KTM 1190 for about 4 years. He's got some very unique perspectives, so I really enjoyed this interview. And one of the things we talked about to get the podcast started was this quote that was on one of Paulo's Instagram photos, and it said, "I used to think the most important things in life were a great job, lots of money, and reaching for the stars." So to kick this thing off, I said, "Hey, Paolo, what do you think the most important things are now?"
Well, I think the most precious asset we have is it's really time, you know.
I agree.
So for many years, as I said, like in that caption, I was focusing more on, gaining, climbing the ladder in my career, and making money and buying things, kind of rewarding me for the effort that I put for my work. And then a couple of events that happened in my life, not directly to me, but like around me, kind of were some sort of like eye-opening events that made me realize that life is a very fragile and futile thing. So the way I used to conceive it. So I decided to take a break and go in for a ride, and that kind of cleared up some clouds in my head. So I still haven't figured out what some of the questions that I had. So hopefully at the end of this journey, I will have a clearer vision of the old thing.
Sure, and back to the comment about the mind, I've seen you mention that a number of times, and I've commented to a lot of people that I think motorcycle riding is very therapeutic, and I use it to, de-stress and unwind. But has it been kind of a therapeutic journey for you too? Were you looking to get away from the day-to-day, or like a lot of our around the world interviews we've done, some people were kind of at a low point in their life, and that's when they set off on their journey?
Yeah, there's a lot of around the world travelers. That's what I realized when I started my trip. There's so many people traveling; it's incredible. It's nobody seems to like to work anymore, so that's a good thing. And a lot of more people are have the possibility of traveling, and seeing people doing so. It kind of inspires others to do the same. As happened to me, I wasn't in a low point at all. Actually, I was probably a top point of my life, because I had a great job and a great life. I lived in Australia, so I was living by the beach, and I had this beautiful career in IT, and I was a lifeguard, and living by the beach, and it's kind of sunny. Sydney is a beautiful city to live if you like the ocean. So I was actually, I would say, probably a very high point of my life. So I had some savings as well. I never had savings before, but life over there allowed me to save a bit, and so it wasn't the same for me. I mean, actually, it was probably harder for me because I had to give up all this to start my journey.
Yeah, that's a leap of faith in its own. What is it about Australia? You're not the first person that we've spoken to. We recently interviewed Kinga Tanayevska, and she rode around Australia like you and then set off. What's it about the Australia that's making everybody want to get out there and set sail?
Well, Australia is a very unique country. I never really ridden in any other in a country like that before. There's nothing. There's nothing for hundreds of kilometers. There's nothing at all. Like just no people and just a very flat landscape and lots of sand and it's ocean. It's an island, so there's a lot of lots of nature and lots of tranquility, I would say. So I think it's I don't know. It seems like Australia gives you the chance, in a sense of living more kind of a bohemian and rural life, if you want, because there's so much. We call it outback. It's basically living in the countryside or living by the beach, or you can, like, a life like that is contemplated. So it's not. Australians are not absolutely completely oriented to the career. They're still attached to that kind of a simple life. They really like to enjoy nature and hang out by the beach and have a beer and have a barbecue. So I think it's kind of a part of the heritage they carry. It's not so bad to live on the road. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, more nomadic.
Yeah, it's absolutely contemplated.
Okay, so you've been out here riding around the world you're coming on your 4th year. What do you think has been the most challenging part for you so far?
Well, definitely for me it was the heat.
Okay.
I mean, riding through heat, it was really challenging because you have to ride with gear, and a lot of countries in South America, there's like a lot of sand and very little water, or the roads are in precarious conditions, and when you're you can't really carry too much water, you can't really carry too much fuel on a motorcycle, so you kind of have to adapt to the situation. And in terms of riding, it wasn't really too challenging. There's some stages, yes, there's always some challenges, like when you ride on sand, or you have to do, you ride above 4,500 meters high. That's lack of oxygen. I think that's the best part of the adventure. It's a challenge, but the challenge, I think, from my point of view, is to protrude the trip for 4 years. That's to keep it going. That's the biggest challenge I have to face. Because it's such a beautiful adventure, you don't want it to end.
You don't want to stop, and I don't blame you.
No, you want to keep going. But in terms of riding, I always enjoy challenges in that sense. But to me, the most important challenge now is to keep it going.
Yeah, and that's another question I wanted to ask you. You're headed back over towards Europe this year. Are you going to try to keep the ball rolling here, or are you going to go back to, I guess, what I would call the normal lifestyle and work at an everyday job? Well,
one of the obstacles that every traveler has to face is the financial aspect of it. If you can manage to travel and make your money, it's something good. But some people can't, so you might have to stop and work a bit, and then you can keep going. For me personally, I work in IT, so I could work remotely, but I decided not to work remotely because I actually wanted to take a break from work. Because, as I say, I didn't want to focus my life on working, because that's it was a kind of interfering with the mindset that I wanted to keep. So I have that completely clear mind, free from thinking about money and work and piling up those money in my bank account. So I decided not to work for a while, and I've done so for the past 4 years. Obviously, there's some things you have to do to be able to continue traveling for 4 years without working, but nothing illegal. You just remove one meal a day or sleep on the side of the road. Those are things that makes the trip becoming cheaper and cheaper. But once I reach Italy, which is the country, my birth, I probably stop and stay with my family for a few months. But then I'll keep going to Southeast Asia and the Middle East, back to Australia. But that part of the world is kind of cheap, so I'm not really worried about the finance in that sense.
Yeah, you mentioned your family. What is their take on you being out on the road for this long?
Well, my mom is freaking out, that's for sure. Because, not knowing some countries, you might assume certain things just based on things that you heard about the country. Sure. Like if I say Colombia or Mexico, you just hear the echo of the news that you saw on TV, and you see the killings and the drug dealing,
cartels,
and it's nothing like that. But I try to explain to your mom is something different. That's another challenge for you if you want. But no, I mean they're very happy because I'm happy. So they've been very supportive with me.
Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about your bike? I read an interview, and you like to talk about your bike, but You've got that 1190, and that's kind of a rare bird here in the States, but why don't you kind of walk us through that machine, how many miles you've got on it, when you got it, all that stuff?
Yes, I got it secondhand with pretty much 400 miles on it, so almost new. In Australia, so I lived in Australia, so I bought a bike over there, and it was my first KTM, but my uncle is in the motorcycle industry. He used to be a racer, a mechanic as well. So, and he used to be a mechanic for KTM for the Dakar. So,
okay, wow.
It kind of, I couldn't get a BMW. Let's say
okay. I get it.
But then I tried the KTM 1190 when it first came out in Australia. It was like late 2014, 2013, and I fell in love with the bike, so that was, that for me was my dream bike. So I had pretty much no choice, no alternatives than buying the bike. And then I just put some few things like the bash plates and a few other things that the bike was missing. But aside from this, the bike has been keeping me company for the past 4 years through Australia and the Americas. And he has almost 100,000 miles on it, pretty much.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Everybody says so because KTM they're not known for reliability. The past models, the 990, the 950, were kind of they had some recurrent issues, known issues like with the fuel pump, the water pump, and so on. So the people were kind of skeptical when in choosing a KTM for like a long journey, unless you're like an aficionado and you really like KTM as a brand, so you'll stick with the brand. But otherwise, no, not many people. Mostly BMWs and KLRs. That's a big what people choose usually.
Yeah, those BMWs are very, very popular. But speaking to you and speaking to was it Aaron Steinman, who's got 70,000 miles on his KTM 500. I think that tells me everything I need to know. That's amazing. Have you had any small issues with your 1190?
It's incredible, but the bike is, I don't even have to knock on wood. The bike has been absolutely bulletproof. I never had a mechanical issue. The only things that had to be replaced were just like seals and like the fork seals and rear shock seals, the fuel pump seals, and the filters. That's the only thing. Absolutely, I cleaned I checked the valve clearance maybe 3 times, and people were actually surprised that the bike was in great conditions when they checked those things. So yeah.
Next time someone starts knocking KTM's, I'm looking forward to pointing them to this podcast and the one with Aaron. That's amazing. Good testament to reliability.
Send it to me. Send it to me directly. I'll tell him. I'll talk to him.
Yeah, perfect. Also saw that you this past summer you got to ride a 690 at the KTM Adventure Rally. Now I know they're revising that model for 2019, but what did you think of that machine?
The 690 is actually, I mean, if you ride an enduro bike, like a 250, I will say, or a 450, it's pretty similar. It's incredible that they kind of squeezed such a large engine, say like a large displacement engine, in a very similar bike than a 450 or 250. It's very light, it's very maneuverable. Obviously, it's not meant for high speed because it has such a like a shape and weight that is made for off-road and enduro riding. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I wasn't like if you like 2 strokes, it's you're probably still 1 or 2 strokes. But for a big bore enduro bike, it was a great bike to ride. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I've kicked around the idea of having one of those too because, and I'm talking some of the rides I do, we're talking dirt roads, a little bit of asphalt, maybe some wider trails. I think that's a really good all-around bike too.
Yes, indeed. And I'm looking forward to the 790 DR model because that's new engine, new things, but apparently it's not. It's more It's more toward the 690 than the 1090. It's more in that around that class of bikes. So it could be an alternative too.
I'll be interested to hear what they have to say this week. I know that a bunch of online publications and magazines are riding them in Morocco right now. So it'd be cool to hear some opinions and see some videos and see what the outcome is. Yeah,
looking forward to that too.
Hey, we're going to go to the KTM rally this year in Colorado, but what was the one in Canada like for you?
It was my first KTM rally. I always wanted to see one. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to participate with my bike because I would have wrecked it. I mean, I know it's kind of a sad thing because you're there and you see everybody riding and having fun, but at this stage of the bike, it's more than 70,000 miles, more than 80,000 miles. I have to keep an eye on the bike a bit, slightly more than when it was brand new.
Sure.
I seriously bashed it in South America, like a Carretera Austral and Ruta 40 in Bolivia. There's so many roads in Brazil. The bike has been punished severely with salt and mud and sand, and I know what has been through, and I didn't really need to punish her again for this specific rally, and I really enjoyed hanging out with there was Chris Birch there, so it was just amazing just to hang out with those guys, and it was very muddy and slippery, and a lot of the bike got punished, so I prefer to be a spectator in that sense and try the 690 and the 350, I think it was. So.
Sure, happily ride some of the KTM demos, no problem.
Yeah.
So I want to commend you. Like when you put your photos on Instagram, you tell a story every time, and I don't know if that comes naturally for you or you've learned that along the way, or if it's just off the top of your head in the moment. But I'm curious. What kind of camera are you using to capture your photos and videos? I know a lot of our listeners would be interested to hear about that equipment.
Sure. It's a cell phone.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a Samsung Galaxy. Before I had the S7 with the 2 micro lens that you screw on top. And that was for my South America, Central America thing. And then I got then I broke that one. It flew off my bike, so I had to change it. And I got a S9, which it's just a great camera, and it's very practical. I don't carry like a big camera, and the backup is way easier with a cell phone because you just plug it in and you back up. Photos are smaller size, but it's enough for the social media feed and everything. And when you do your stories, everything, it's on the cell phone. So the camera is good to take those dramatic shots, at night, and it's a great tool. And I had a camera in Australia. So if you look at the picture in Australia, I had a DSLR camera, proper camera with 2 lenses, and that was very heavy and not very practical to carry around. But picture quality is definitely better. But I for this section of the trip, I prefer to carry just a cell phone. But I do have my drone, so
okay.
I carry. Yeah, so I have a drone. So some of the aerial shot that I got were from a drone.
Okay, what drone are you using?
I have a DJI Phantom 4, which is huge.
That is.
That was the only thing available when I started the trip in South America. So that was the only drone. The Mavic and all the Sparks and the Mavic Air and all the other smaller version and portable version of drones that had the follow me feature. They came later, so I already had mine. But in a way, having a bigger drone allows you to fly where those smaller drones don't. So in certain situations, I was lucky to have a bigger drone.
Yeah, speaking from experience, that's definitely true. I have a Phantom, and then I have a Mavic and a Mavic 2, and if a 10, 15 mile an hour wind, you don't even bother. You're not going to get any shots. It's not going to be stable, and it's pretty risky too. So no, I definitely, when it's windy like that, we lean towards using the Phantoms, and it's a great drone.
It is, and the battery lasts more, and so on. The quality is outstanding, and so on. If you have those 3, so that the Phantom it's definitely like a semi-professional tool for filming, aerial things.
Definitely. Well, hats off. That surprised me that you're not using a camera. You take some great cell phone photos, and like I said, there's a lot of you do a great job of describing the photo and your thoughts in the moment. So hats off there. Speaking of your stories, I just happened upon one in Oregon the other day, and I looked through it, and you must have been in a gun store or something, and
yes.
You take a bunch of photos and videos of basically things that you can buy in the United States. And I don't lean one way or the other, but you've been in a lot of other countries. Are you seeing the gun availability like this on any level in other countries in the world?
No. No.
Does that scare you, or as you being from Italy, do people in other countries view Americans in a different light? When you start to talk about guns.
I'm from Europe. We don't have guns there. We do, but we don't carry guns around unless you're hunting. And I moved to Australia. We had guns there, and then the gun ban was proposed as a law, and guns were banned in 1980 or 90, something like that, after a massacre. So a guy, like a kid, 18-year-old kid, walked into a function and killed 30 people with a semi-automatic gun. And 3 days later, they banned guns, and we haven't had any issue since. So definitely not a fan, but I am very curious about culture. Guns is part of American culture, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know about the hunting rules and the policies. You need to have a license and blah blah blah. Where you can buy the guns. I filmed those stories in the gun store because for me it was new. Like it was the first time walking into a gun store. So And the guy actually asked me, like, do you have any questions? Like, I don't even know what to ask you, man. Like, I don't even
Where do
know.
we start?
Yeah, like, I don't even know. And he explained me all the guns and, why, blah, blah, blah. And he also explained me the reason why, guns, the Second Amendment and stuff like that, because there's a storyline, because if you see just the end of the face of the fact that, USA has guns, why people have guns. So obviously that is not a good look in comparison with other countries in the world, but there's a reason, there's a history behind it, and also you have to look at United States. It's not like any other country, the size of it, where people live, how do they live, where do they live, the density of populations and things like that, issues usually arise most likely in big cities where, there's a lot of people, and if everybody has a gun, there's more probability of, people shooting each other and stuff like that. But it's part of that country, It's not like, I don't see it as a bad thing. If people want gun, they feel safer with guns, and they have lots of guns, and it's fine to me. I'm not afraid of people because I know they have guns. I see things this way, and I often get asked, like, do you carry a weapon when you travel? Like, why would I carry a weapon? If I have to, be scared or be afraid or to be concerned about protecting myself when traveling, I defeat the purpose of traveling, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I don't carry when I ride. I don't carry when I backpack. Some people think I'm crazy for going out in the wilderness with animals and walking around too. But I am a gun owner, but I don't really lean either way. I think it's culturally embedded.
Yes.
But I'm also concerned about these mass shootings that seem to be a recurring theme, and I just kind of wanted your take and your experience on that too, and what you saw from other countries. So very interesting.
Yes. Well, I don't know if people understood kind of my point of view, but I'm definitely, I wouldn't want a gun. Let's say, and I travel in the the wilderness, and I'm not afraid of animals. I don't feel like I have to protect myself from animals neither. So like if somebody wants to kill me or attack me for something, I think they want my stuff, and I'll give it to them, and don't need to point a gun at them, or I don't know. I feel safe enough not to carry weapons with me.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel safe on my bike. If something doesn't feel right, I usually avoid it.
Yeah, that's it. My weapon is common sense.
Common sense, maybe sense of humor. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
We'll start there.
Yeah,
So,
something in between.
people you've met along the way, have they shifted your perspectives moving forward at all?
Well, definitely. I mean, I spent a lot of time in South America and in Latin America, and definitely it was the part that I was mostly interested into, because I lived in the United States before. So I lived in LA for 3 years back in 2005. So I was interested in other parts of the United States, but kind of that culture was familiar to me. So I was more interested in the Latin American culture, and all the things that are related to it. So that was definitely a life-changing experience.
Okay. So I also noticed some of your posts about solo travel. Obviously, you've been at it for a number of years here, and you're an advocate for it. But how do you feel about being out there by yourself as opposed to maybe doing this with a partner or even traveling with a group? Why is that different for you? Why is it better?
When you travel by yourself, you're completely in tune with yourself. You don't have to talk to anybody to decide things. You just listen to yourself, and you decide your own route. Depends what you feel like to do, and you're very authentic to yourself. And when you travel with others, obviously you benefit from help and support from others. But riding a motorcycle I think it's a solo sport, or but I think I like to be in tune with the machine and myself, and and decide where to go, just completely independently. I prefer this way, but I also I shared part of my trip with a couple of persons, and it was fine, but it's very hard to get along with people 100%. You always have some differences and things like that, and also the difference, especially with motorcycles, like the difference in riding. There's different riding styles, different motorcycles can affect the rides as well. So it's kind of a complex situation to match perfectly with another motorcyclist, especially in going in a country that you don't know, or going to the road. It's kind of challenging. So it's when you ride by yourself, you always feel comfortable with your ride, because your limits. If you want to push, you push. If you don't want to push, you don't push, and so on. So I feel safer in that way when I'm by myself.
Yeah, I think you kind of control your own destiny and your own decisions too. But I like what you said. Very authentic. When you're out there alone, I think that's the time that you are truly yourself. There's no facade for anybody riding with you, and you're, for better or for worse, brutally honest with yourself too. So very interesting take. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I think I really like silence in a way.
Sure.
So when you're by yourself, you don't need to talk to anybody. You're with your own thoughts, and if you are in nature, you just absorb nature. You don't need to talk. You're just there. You're very in the moment. You're very authentic to yourself and to the situation, and to who you are, and where you are, and why you're there. So most of the time, words are superfluous. We use a lot of words, but in certain moments, it's better not to speak. I think it's just to absorb what the energy of the moment. I think is much better option.
Great point. Hey, I wanted to ask before we wrap this thing up, do you have a favorite place that you've been so far?
Well, I for riding, definitely Peru was absolutely incredible. Had some incredible riding, just like landscape and single trail with cliffs on both sides, and like crazy stuff. Like it's just a spectacle to ride there, and there's such a large variety of options in terms of riding too. You can ride on sand, in the jungle, in the mountains, and there's some beautiful paved road too. So there's 3 mountain ranges, and there's some mountains that are like up to 80,000 feet, like 6,000 meters high. So there's a lot of possibility for riding. It definitely was one of my favorite, such as Bolivia as well. But for living, I think I've been spending a lot of time in Chile. So yeah, it's definitely like the culture, the people are very friendly, and the infrastructure and so on. I think it ticks my boxes.
Okay. One of the last things for me, do you have any sponsors or people that have kind of helped you along the way on this big round the world ride?
I have some support from companies in terms of like products, not economically. I've been self-sufficient for that in that sense, but I've been sponsored by Giant Loop definitely. You guys probably know.
Oh yeah.
They're from them. They're from Bend, and they make these soft bags that they're incredible. I've been using them for like 4 years now. So I know Harold is the main guy at the company, and he's been supporting me since day one. Then I have support from Dainese and AGV, which are two Italian brands that make motorcycle gear and helmets. And I have Sina for recording, the recording device that you attach to your helmet. And then I have Barkbusters. They gave me some handguards to attach to the handlebar of my bike. And then I recently got a very lucky one, which was the Hippo hands.
Oh, wow.
Which are from Oregon as well.
Yep.
And those things saved my hands through the cold months of cold months of riding through Canada and the United States. Yeah, definitely that was a blessing. It came out of nowhere, but that was absolutely necessary for my riding in the last months.
Yeah, it's amazing how something so simple can be such a lifesaver, especially when the weather turns.
Oh my God! Oh my God! No, I would have lost my hands. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, wind chill can be a real brutal thing. All right, so last thing for me, Paul, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. But how can we find and follow along with your adventure?
Yes, so most of my feed is delivered on Instagram. So if you can find me there, it's Paolo Cattaneo photo. So it's PaoloCattaneo. So and then photo. Photo is international, but I think if you just put Paolo C and it should come up. It's just a guy with a bike, so you'll probably be able to find me there. And on Facebook is the same. So Paolo Cattaneo, but it's official.
Okay.
So Paolo Cattaneo official. And
you still doing anything on YouTube?
Yes, on YouTube I have a channel that nobody watches. So if you're interested, yeah. But there's some videos there about my riding. So every country I crossed, I made a little video. There's not much talking, so you guys are okay. You should be fine. Just watching images, even if with your audio off. But there's some GoPro and drone footage of the countries that I crossed. So it's again is on YouTube. Just look for Paolo Cattaneo. It should come up.
All right, Paolo. I want to thank you for joining the podcast today. Really appreciate you donating some of your time.
No, thank you very much, and hopefully I'll see you somewhere around the world. Have a good day. Ciao.
Ciao, Paolo. Thank you for coming on the podcast, and I genuinely do hope that someday, somewhere in the world, we cross paths, we'll sit down, we'll grab a drink, and I'll hear some more of your amazing stories. It's really tough to roll 4 years of round-the-world motorcycle travel into a 30 or 35-minute podcast. That being said, we are eternally grateful for your time, and we wish you the safest of travels. People, don't forget, at Paolo Cattaneo Photo on Instagram and at Paolo Cattaneo Official on Facebook. Make sure you give him a follow and support him as he completes his round-the-world journey. BendMotorcycleAdventures.com, that is our website. Off-road, dual sport, adventure motorcycle tours predominantly in the Pacific Northwest. We also offer adventure bike training. Now, we started this last year. It's a 2-day real-world scenario. We ride big loops. We address any issues, concerns, weaknesses you have on your adventure bike and get you more comfortable on that beast. So if you're thinking about an around-the-world trip like Paolo, this is the class for you. Or if you've spent a lot of time on pavement and you want to transition to dirt, BendMotorcycleAdventures.com, we can help you improve and excel on your adventure bike. Now, we've got a class coming up in May. That one is fully booked out, but if you'd like to set something up for June, July, August, whenever, whatever the case may be, BendMotorcycleAdventures@gmail.com, shoot me an email, and we can help you improve your adventure motorcycle skills. Don't forget about our social media channels at Bend Motorcycle Adventures on both Facebook and Instagram, and just simply Bend Motorcycle Adventures on YouTube. Haven't had a lot of fresh content lately. Reason being, 4 foot of snow here, haven't really gotten out, but it looks like we are transitioning towards spring, albeit not at an expedited pace. So I'm going to go riding in Idaho next week. I've got a trip planned for Moab in April, so we're going to start to generate quite a bit of content for the social media platforms and specifically some better YouTube videos. So if you're not following us on social media, I can guarantee that you're going to miss out. Again, at Bend Motorcycle Adventures, Facebook and Instagram, Bend Motorcycle Adventures on YouTube. Time to wrap things up. Just a couple more things. Episode 31 will debut on Monday, March 18th, and you do not want to miss this episode. All I'm going to say is it's one of the most amazing motorcycle adventure stories that you'll likely ever hear. Again, Monday, March 31st, episode 31. Episode 30, now in the books. Thank you, Paolo, for being a guest. And shout out to Mother Nature for bringing spring back this year. We missed you. We missed the sunshine. We missed the warmer temps. I'm glad you're here, and I'm really looking forward to getting out and doing a ton of riding this spring and summer. And that's what you guys should do this weekend. Get out there, be safe, and catch up with us on Monday for episode 31. We'll see ya.